Bangladesh has been shaken by an earthquake that struck with unexpected force, rattling entire cities and leaving behind a scene marked by fear, destruction, and uncertainty. The tremor was felt with such power that millions ran about bewildered, as the ground vibrated for an extended period beneath their feet. The earthquake particularly affected the areas of Dhaka, Narsingdi, and surrounding regions, where the population was completely taken aback by the intensity of the event. The tremor has been classified as one of the strongest recorded in Bangladesh in recent years, triggering immediate alarm and the urgent deployment of assessment teams. Initial reports confirm that this earthquake has left a considerable number of casualties, injuries, and serious structural damage, quickly becoming a major national concern. The estimated magnitude, between 5.5 and 5.7, has been sufficient to cause visible devastation in several densely populated communities. Although not a mega-earthquake, the shallow depth at which the tremor occurred caused seismic waves to reach the surface with extreme force, increasing their destructive potential. The recorded depth of 10 kilometers indicates that it was a shallow earthquake, which explains why it was so widely felt and caused so much damage. The exact point where the phenomenon originated was located in the Madhabdi region, within the Narsingdi district, an area very close to the country's capital. The epicenter's location, just 13 kilometers from Dhaka, amplified the effects of the earthquake in urban areas with a very high population density. Some sources have specified that the epicenter was located between the Narsingdi Sadar and Palash Upjala's areas, both known for their industrial activity and constant human activity, which explains the high number of people affected at the time of the tremor. One of the most striking details is the duration of the earthquake, a full 26 seconds of constant vibration that felt like an eternity to the population. This prolonged duration increased structural damage and the level of panic among residents. Authorities and rescue teams have confirmed that at least 10 people have lost their lives after the earthquake, a number that could rise as the inspection of affected areas continues. The deaths are spread across different locations that felt the tremor particularly strongly. In Narsingdi, several fatalities have been reported related to the collapse of parts of roofs and walls, in addition to 2 specific cases: a person who fell from a tree during the earthquake and another who suffered a fatal heart attack due to the shock and intensity of the tremor. In Dhaka, especially in the old Dhaka district, one of the most dramatic scenes unfolded when a railing of a multi-story building suddenly collapsed, killing at least 4 people and injuring several residents and passers-by. In the Narayanganj district, one of the most tragic incidents reported so far occurred. A newborn baby died when a wall of the house where he was lying collapsed due to the tremor, leaving the community in shock. In addition to the fatalities, the number of injured exceeds 600, according to preliminary reports. Many of the injured suffered contusions, fractures, and injuries caused by falling objects, dislodging materials, or accidents that occurred during the evacuation. In Narsingdi alone, more than 100 injuries have been reported, several of them caused by the partial collapse of weak structures and the dislodging of heavy materials that fell from roofs, balconies, and cracked walls. In industrial areas like Gazipur, there were moments of high risk, where workers were injured during hasty evacuations. The panic unleashed in factories led to falls, blows, and injuries as people rushed to reach open spaces as quickly as possible. The material damage reported so far is significant, especially in the capital, Dhaka. It is estimated that at least 14 buildings have sustained considerable damage, ranging from deep cracks that compromise their structural integrity to visible tilting that has forced the evacuation and cordoning off of several areas. In areas such as Rampura TV Road and Kalabagan, authorities have confirmed the presence of leaning buildings that pose a potential risk of collapse. This situation has led to immediate evacuations and technical inspections to determine their stability. In Old Dhaka, another 5-story building partially collapsed, causing fatalities and trapping several people in the rubble. Rescue teams are working against the clock to free those still missing. The damage is not limited to residential structures. In Narsingdi, several industrial facilities have suffered severe damage. Transformers, heavy machinery, and equipment at a fertilizer factory were compromised, some shutting down automatically due to the seismic activity. Images and reports gathered by local authorities show widespread debris, including bricks, balconies, railings, concrete fragments, and pieces of infrastructure that gave way under the prolonged vibration. This avalanche of material has caused numerous injuries and damage to homes and businesses. Small fires have also been reported in various locations, caused by structural failures, short circuits, and falling debris that struck electrical installations. Although under control, these fires highlight the vulnerability of some areas following the earthquake. Despite the visible destruction in urban areas, no collapses have been reported on major highways, bridges, or other important routes in the country so far. The road network appears to have withstood the tremor, although inspections continue to rule out any hidden damage. Authorities responsible for assessing road infrastructure are continuing to inspect different sections to check for possible minor damage, although the focus for now remains on affected buildings and densely populated areas. One of the most immediate and difficult effects to address has been widespread panic. The earthquake took millions of people by surprise, who ran aimlessly in search of open spaces, creating scenes of chaos in streets, avenues, and residential areas. In schools and student complexes, dozens of young people reacted desperately, and some even jumped from windows to escape the shaking, causing further injuries amid the confusion. In industrial centers, the chaos was also evident. The hasty evacuation resulted in stampedes, trips, and falls, increasing the number of injured and creating a tense atmosphere that has required psychological support in some facilities. The event has been described by specialists as one of the strongest earthquakes Bangladesh has experienced in decades, reopening the debate about the seismic vulnerability of a densely populated country with infrastructure that, in many cases, is not prepared to withstand such events. Allahu Akbar. The population, still shaken, has expressed fear of possible aftershocks that could worsen the existing damage. Monitoring teams continue to assess seismic activity in the region to determine if there is a risk of further tremors. In Narsingdi, an emergency control center has been activated to coordinate rescue teams, assess damage, and prioritize the most vulnerable areas. Direct communication is maintained from there with local authorities and rescue workers.